It's really fun.
It's fun too.
Wait,
When can we talk about our gift?
can we,
The end.
at the end? Oh, okay. This will give us motivation to get through this. Violet, go ahead with roll call.
You betcha. Today for roll call, we have myself, Violet Plummer, Dylan Jakes, Emmy Bristow, Eric Dixon, Jackson Lee, Jason Hauser, Kim White, Kyla Leonard, Shane Stack, Cheryl Ziegler, Cindy Kennedy, Billy Ayers, Bridget Johnson, Kim Bauer, Lisa Shepard, and MCAT participating virtually. And then it looks like in 206, we have Chris Lonsberry, Andrew Chorney, Dave Strohmeyer, Mel Fisher, Allison Franz, Anna Conley, Brian West, Commissioner Slotnick, and Commissioner Vero. Did I miss anybody in there?
No, well done.
Okay, hooray, thanks.
Thanks. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda?
Bear Tracks Bridge dedication has been rescheduled officially until Indigenous Peoples Day on October 10th. So if anyone is wondering.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Has anybody listened to the Land Grab podcast?
The Land Grab
my-
podcast. No.
It's on my list, yes.
They talk about you guys and naming Bear Tracks Bridge.
Seriously?
It is a deep dive into Western Montana history, and
Wow.
it is focused mostly on Missoula County.
Who
And
put this together?
these two guys that used to be reporters for the Missoulian. You remember Matt Newman?
I
Yeah,
do remember.
The redhead, tall guy.
Red-haired guy, yeah, who seemed too smart for that job.
he went into medicine.
If you guys like Montana
He
history,
wasn't
especially
medicine, sorry.
focused on Western Montana history and on Missoula specifically, it is incredible.
It's called the Land Grab.
Oh, man, that'll be my bike ride.
Okay.
home today.
There we go.
It's very long. It's like.
Holy smokes.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And it starts.
That's a day on the tractor. It's a day on the tractor.
Yeah, I'll be in on Saturday.
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you for
Thanks.
that. Any other public comment? Okay, looks like we have 22 items on the consent agenda. Does anything need to be pulled out and discussed separately?
I'd like to remove all 22 and discuss them.
There's a lot of PHC. We're gonna keep people working, keep PHC open.
Okay,
I would move that we approve items 1 through 22 on the consent
I'll
agenda.
second that.
any further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
On the
Aye.
action items with the first one is Cindy Kennedy, or first two are Cindy Kennedy. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So the first item is I'm requesting that the board approve the chair to sign a memorandum for record to the U.S. Department of Army to reflect an increase in federal funding from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for phase 2 of the Buena Vista Wastewater project. The MFR reflects the latest increase in funding that was contributed to this project in the amount of $650,000. Since 2019, the Army Corps has contributed $1,420,000 to this project. With other funding sources, the project budget is just shy of $2.3 million. And the project recently went to bid, so we are hoping to receive proposals on July 12th. And as a reminder to the administrative staff, this document requires a wet signature. Any questions?
No, thank you.
It's a great thing for the Buena Vista
It's a
system.
very good thing. Does it make any difference what color ink the wet signature is in?
Probably anything but red. I don't know.
That's okay.
All right,
I always like to use blue, so it's obvious, but whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine.
I would move we approve the chair to sign the memorandum for record.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Sure. Should I launch into the second item?
Please.
Please, yeah.
So this is a request for the board to approve the chair to sign an amended grant agreement between Missoula County and the Montana Department of Commerce for a community development block grant housing rehabilitation program that will support a housing rehab project in Sealy Lake. And this project is a fairly large project. It's going to include replacing some decks around the house, stairs to the house, replacing windows, doing some roof repairs, adding motion lights, doing some work on some interior stairs. And it's estimated to cost a little over $50,000. And technically these, not really a grant, it's a loan. It's a low interest deferred loan to the homeowner that requires a lien on the home. And the loan would be paid off once the property transitions to new ownership or is no longer the primary residence of the eligible recipient.
Cindy,
Are
this
there
is this is the program where we can only do one project at a time.
Correct.
Is there any progress on getting that changed, or how?
Not yet. So this will be the last project that we'll be able to do under this current grant that we have. And we're in the process of reapplying for another grant. And certainly once we have applied for that grant and work with the state some more, we will continue to work with them on how we can do more than one project at a time. And I think it just is going to depend on the projects.
Let us know how we can help, if that means meeting
Yeah.
with the Director of Department of Commerce or whatever.
To have this money there and the need there and be on this really ridiculous schedule is
Yeah, and we suspect there's really good reason for why they have this model. They do have limited fund, or they don't always know what their funding situation is, and so it'd be really difficult for them to dedicate a set amount of funds. But I do understand that they will contribute. I think it was $250,000 that they would say they would contribute. So we'll get that all figured out and let you guys know how you can help.
Thank you.
thanks.
This approach seemed like a good idea in 1982.
Yeah.
I would move to authorize the chair to sign the amended grant agreement.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Mel. Fisher.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Cindy.
So what we've got here is the contract between Missoula County and AE Design, A&E. This would take us through work that's currently being done through December 31st, 2023. So through the master plan and design phase for the federal building. So they'll work on the master planning, do the programming with our individual departments to figure out how all the pieces would fit, the construction plans, permitting, et cetera, to take us through the project. Glad to answer any questions about where the federal building is in general, but this is the A&E piece.
Okay.
It's a couple of blocks away.
That's right.
So where is it in general?
Where is it? So the feds are on track to allegedly transfer the deed. Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's moving target winter 2022.
Okay.
So sometime in November-ish.
Oh, great.
So their current tenants still are not out of the building. Their build out for their existing folks has been delayed, supply chain, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's been their slowdown, but they're saying they think this winter.
Okay.
So in the background, we were working on the special district creation along with the city. So that's
Fantastic.
on track. So hopefully that will be created when the feds are ready to give us the building so we can accept it. We're in conversations with the post office about a temporary lease, so they would stay there in the short term until we have a different plan.
That's really good news.
Mhm.
Is the 622 our share, or is that split between the city and the county?
That's total. So our share is half of that,
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
but we hold the contract with them on behalf of us and the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for all your work moving this forward.
Oh, sure.
All right, I would move that the board approve the PSA.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jackson. Lee.
Yeah, good morning. This contract is for design and engineering services on shared use pathways within the Missoula County Trail System. A recent commission action approved expenditure of up to $250,000 out of the 2014 County Parks and Trails bond for this purpose. And the engineering package includes 4 priority projects that are recommended by the Missoula County Parks and Trails Advisory Board. This includes the Blue Mountain Connector from Highway 93 to the recreation area, Bonner Street Car Trail along Highway 200, Frenchtown Phase 2 Trail along Mullen Road, and Mullen Road Trail from Cody to Deshaw. The projects before us are also identified as priorities in the 90% draft of our Pathways and Trails plan. And we think they promote equity in our shared use trail system by serving areas with limited pedestrian infrastructure and providing high quality community connections to residents outside of Missoula city limits. Any questions?
I'm really glad we'll be able to do this.
Yeah, and this is the design phase.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, I'd move that we approve the contract.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Doug.
thank you.
Jane Stack. PSA with HDR.
Good morning. My camera doesn't seem to work, but hopefully you can hear me,
We can.
which has been a problem lately for my meetings with you guys. Anyway, yeah, I've got a project specific agreement for HDR to do 30% design on South Avenue between Clements and Blue Mountain, excluding the area that would be the South Avenue Bridge project, with the goal of tying that work to a larger, I guess, project coordinating with MDT for discretionary funds that have now become available through the latest infrastructure bill. So the goal essentially is just getting that 30% design, have a good price and a good scope to use as information to submit for grant funding. Cost for the contract is not to exceed $51,856. And the goal is to hopefully be able to have these plans buttoned up by late summer, early fall, and have that information available for the next round of any discretionary funds that this project would meet the criteria for.
Shane, any sort of highlights from design as to what would change on these roads that would make them more user friendly?
You know, we met with HDR this morning and they've already got some real generic line work done, but right now we're proposing a typical section that would include a curb and gutter section with a 10-foot shared use path on the north side of South Avenue to Humble, which it would switch over to the south side between Clements and Humble. And again, curb and gutter, and then the shared use path that would essentially tie into the school at Clements. So hopefully that, I don't know if that paints the picture. The other thing too, Josh, I would say is that we're also looking at intersection improvements at Blue Mountain and River Pines.
Yeah,
In a perfect world, that would look like a roundabout. But just looking at the rough line work HDR had this morning that they shared with us, just to meet standards, it gets a little impactful. So, you know, there's going to have to be a balance of meeting standard and minimizing impacts if we do want to try to put a roundabout at that intersection.
There's not a lot of open space nearby that isn't part of a creek.
And the grades are a little challenging too. So.
Shane, could you talk about where the 51,000 is coming from?
Yeah, we plan to use ARPA. We've got $500,000 of ARPA dedicated to do some 30% design engineering as much as we can on a handful of bridges and roads. And so this is the first project that we're going to be under contract with, and we've got 7 more that we're going to design as much as we can with in that $500,000 in ARPA.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, and this doesn't go west of the school, correct? It's just to the school.
It just goes to the school. We can talk a little bit. I'll just give you a quick update on that. We're working with the MPO on the section of South Avenue between Clements and Reserve Street. There's a NOFO out on some funding that's part of that highway discretionary funding that's become available. And so we're going to partner with the city and hopefully MDT and the MPO on an application for that stretch between Clements and Reserve. That application is due September 15th. So we're working pretty hard to get that ready too.
Okay, thanks.
Great. All right, I would request the board approve the PSA with HDR.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks so much,
Thanks, Shane.
Shane.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Eric Dixon. With an agreement with Neil Bachman.
Good morning. Yes, so back in 2012, we were searching for, well, actually before that, but in 2012, we found a private landholder that had a gravel pit on their property, and we worked pretty hard to become the sole operator in that pit. It's at the corner of Hole in the Wall and and Potomac Road. So up in the Potomac Greeno area, and it's a pretty valuable location for us. That's a really in between area for our winter maintenance. It's kind of far to go to either to Missoula or back into Sealy for sanding material. So this has been a valuable location for us, and we estimated at that time about 50,000 cubic yards of material that we could crush in that area. So far we've crushed about 36,000 yards, and since then, the original property owner, Mary Hayes, passed away, and this property went to her son, Neil Bachman. So we reached out to Neil because our original agreement that we signed with Mary in 2012 expired this past spring. So I reached out to him. He was interested in maintaining that lease. So we negotiated a new royalty fee. We were way out of date with the original one. So we've agreed with $3.50 per cubic yard for the material that we haul out of there. And that's got an automatic increaser in it that each time we are there to operate, we add 50 cents per cubic yard so that we don't have to negotiate each time. And as the value of gravel continues to increase, I thought it was only fair that we might be in there 2, maybe 3 times to crush. So we'll continue to increase that royalty payment in line with market value. So I think this is a good location, and we would recommend that the agreement be executed.
How's our crusher hanging in there?
It's still kicking.
That's
what
the
we
one,
wanna hear.
the 175-year-old crusher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Our
They don't make them like that.
vintage crusher.
No.
our vintage crusher.
It'll be 85 years old at the end of the lease.
Imagine if that Jerry Marks hauled it here.
Yeah.
Behind a covered wagon. Yeah.
Okay, I move we approve the agreement.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chantel Gaynor and Kim White.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So basically, we're requesting that the board approve an amended lease agreement between Wickman Properties and the Missoula County for an additional $2,500 per month cost. We currently have a lease agreement with Wickman Properties, and that is for $2,250 per month. We are getting an additional 264 square feet to the current location, which will be an additional $260 to the original price per month, because we're going to be entering into a contract with the city to provide services to the defendants going through municipal court. So we're basically expanding our square footage to accommodate 2 additional full-time employees.
There's lots of room down there.
There is lots of room.
That's an understatement.
So what 2 full-time employees are these?
So we are adding 2 additional peer support specialists, and they'll be providing services. Again, this is all going to be covered through a contract with the city. So there will not be an additional fee or cost to the county per se. The contract will be with the city, and that will cover the additional costs of the full-time employees, in addition to the extra equipment, the extra square footage down in the Justice Collaborative, that we like to call it down there. So
That's pretty neat. Has more of a ring to it than basement.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
The euphemism?
Yeah.
We love hearing that the city will be cutting us a check.
Yeah.
Yes.
And great work, Kim. This is all moving our values forward in actual work. Thanks.
Yes, we're very excited.
All right, I'm looking for the right words here on 2 pages. I would move that we request the board approve an amended lease agreement with Wickman Properties.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Kim.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Anna, does it make sense to go out of order and have yours as the last item? Okay,
it sounds so innocuous, so why?
just seems like it might generate discussion.
DBADD.
Oh, is Erica Grindy on?
She's.
Oh.
She's.
You were looking at, she's snuck in.
She's lurking.
She's such a good bow hunter. You.
Huh.
Like a cat.
I have it 10 and a half months old, so I like to have sleep. All right, so this is a request to approve insurance program for fiscal year 23. So all lines of coverage are included on here. The big takeaways are increases to cyber liability. Was almost 100% increase in premium for this fiscal year. This is a market increase. This is not due to losses in that program, at least recent losses. But if you are watching cyber liability, if you pay attention to any news channel, I think you're going to hear about attacks in public sector. And so actually we carry insurance through Chubb, and they are not writing any new lines of coverage for any public sector entities, meaning if we did not hold this policy right now, we could not get a policy with them. And so you're looking at very new insurance companies entering this realm. Their risk ratings are really not great, and probably wouldn't be advising you to even pursue that type of coverage. I do know our broker writes the policies for Mako, and Mako, yeah, I think they received a 400% increase in cyber. They declined to renew on behalf of all of the counties who hold their policies. And so all of those counties, if they're going to carry cyber insurance, are having to go at it on their own. It's just an incredibly tough market. But I think if we had Jason Emery in here or Sam Wolf in here, they would say, keep it while we can. I think this is a realm that we need to keep an eye on what the feds are doing. At some point, federal government's going to have to step in and either put some brakes on what the insurance companies will pay for, meaning can insurance continue to pay for ransomware payments? Like that's where you're seeing the large sums of money heading out. Or will the feds step in and actually start providing insurance, I say in quotes, for public entities in the cyber realm? I will say we got, I know this is a lot, but we got a pretty good renewal compared to like a Mako because Sam has worked so hard. Jason has worked so hard. We all see it. We all have multi-factor authentication on programs. We do regular trainings and our uptake on those trainings is pretty good. We have a pretty good thing going on with our IT department, but it doesn't mean that we're risk-free in that area. And I don't think we should go there on that coverage because one event can be so incredibly costly and also time consuming. I think, you know, the services brought in from legal to PR services, if we were to have a breach, are just incredibly valuable. And they're not things, I think I can look at Allison and attorneys in the room, they're just not things we're skilled at managing without some specialized folks. The other takeaway is on liability. The liability, it did increase 11%. And so between the cyber liability and then the general liability, that's the bulk of the just over $75,000 increase in premiums for the year. The general liability, it continues to be this law enforcement liability. So our liability policy is with a trust. There's a group conglomeration of public entities that we go in with for insurance, which does make it a little bit more cost effective because we're pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but they get reinsured, meaning they only carry a portion of the risk and then they also have to go out to buy policies. Reinsurance for law enforcement liability is just through the roof. I don't know that I need to explain why that is. So again, I don't know that it's attributed much to our own losses, but I will say we have some claims sitting out there. So, you know, we do have a few larger claims that are hanging out, and I'm sure that that's impacting our renewal a bit. And then the only other thing I'll point out is any increase associated with property, you'll see a $13,000 increase. Part of that's due to premium, but a lot of that's due to we just continue to grow. So every time we're adding structures, adding vehicles, adding equipment, that raises our total values and that raises our premiums because the value or the premium for property is based upon our total property values. So
What's the fine arts?
Fine arts policy covers all of the county's collection. The bulk of value is at the courthouse in the murals in there. And then we also
The collection
in
of
our
things,
local agreement, yes,
Museum.
whatever our agreement with MAM, we cover their collection.
Their collection or just
Or
our
our-
portion
No,
of their?
their full collection.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then it also covers the historical museum, which is super interesting, just because their collection is so different than a typical.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not a typical art collection, but
Yeah.
it does, that policy does cover their collection of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then the only thing, if you look at the full packet, we did get a quote on our autos while they're in use. So historically, our autos, when you take them out of the lot they're parked in, have not been covered. We cover them self-insured 100% on property damage. We did get a quote on that. I would recommend we forego purchasing that because the deductible we get is $25,000. That's basically a total loss on most of our equipment, and we just don't see that very often. You know, total claims just in this fiscal year, I think we're just going to be right around $400,000. That's total, like liability included, and so it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think for a policy that I believe is around $30,000. So I would recommend not taking that auto coverage.
Great.
Sorry, did you say the losses were 400,000, premiums 30,000?
Our total losses, including liability, like every loss in the county. So not just property.
Not just vehicles.
That?
We're not spending
Not just-
$400,000 a year on a vehicle.
No,
Damage.
not even close. No, that's like attorney.
That's not-
That's
that's it.
not-
They've been hitting a lot of deer in the ceiling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's soon to increase, but
Math wasn't working there.
no, and then that $25,000 is per occurrence, right? So it's like per accident. I mean, so you have to pay it every single. One time per year, I would take it every day of the week.
I think it's your turn.
Okay, I would move that we approve and authorize our very own Erica Grindy to bind insurance coverage for those items as listed
I'll
And
second.
reject.
I'll
and
second
reject the
that.
coverage as listed.
There's my second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hauser.
Good morning, all. So this is a request for a contract between Sentinel Mechanical and Missoula County for a cooling coil on the 4th floor in the annex building. It's what will provide air conditioning for the county attorney's office.
Is that necessary?
Can they just tough it out? I mean, come
This is your swelter up there.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, we'll keep them chill.
Second that.
Keep those jail cells cold on.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Take care.
Okay, Kyla with Governing Board of Missoula Aging Services.
Hi, Commissioners. We have 4 terms that expire June 30th, so today. 3 of the members are eligible to continue serving and have submitted letters of interest. So Gail Huggins, Roberta Smith, and Karen Bonick. The 4th member, Chris Floor, has submitted his letter of resignation. We had 3 new applicants. We had Heather Richards, Thomas Peterman, and Melissa Hadel. So there's 4 terms to fill, all 3-year terms through June 30th, 2025. And I have Lisa on the line, and she will give you a recommendation from her.
Thank you. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, how are you? Yes, so thank you so much for interviewing the 3 great candidates that we had. They were all really strong. They brought good experience, good expertise to the table, and any one of them would be a good fit or a good choice. But in participating in those interviews and in looking at their applications and their resumes and in consultation with the board, we really think that Melissa Hadel would be a great choice. And again, they were all good, but for her, she's got very specific expertise in working with older adults, and in particular, those with Alzheimer's and dementia. And over the last couple of years, that's been a priority for us as an agency. We've been developing new programs and putting them in place in order to serve that population, because it's really a growing concern for older adults in our area. So having someone on the board who has that knowledge base, I think would be really valuable.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
so I guess I would move that we appoint Melissa and reappoint the 3 individuals who've asked to be re-upped? Okay.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Tyler.
you.
Okay. To Anna.
All right. So I'm here to talk to you. I kind of have a sad swan song for you today. But as you know, in 2020, the county sued the Department of Corrections in the state with regard to our detention center. We had 2 sets of claims. One involved the mask contract, which is a regional prison that we use to house DOC sentenced inmates who are being assessed to decide where else to go. It's its own separate part of the detention center. The other claims were jail claims, which were based on our county side. So once someone is sentenced DOC, before they are moved either to Mask or to a different regional prison or to Deer Lodge or to the women's prison, we have them. And we had in 2015 a agreement with the DOC, a contract that expired in January of 2018. And that required that they pay $88 a day plus a little change per county inmate. So we, as you know, we resolved the mask agreement claims and via settlement last year. We shortened up our mask contract. Now it expires at the end of June 2024. And we agreed that they will pay us our actual cost as set forth in a formula, set forth in administrative rule. So mask is done. And then we were waiting after that mediation for an order on our jail claims, which we got a couple weeks ago. And the order dismissed all of our claims. So it was summary judgment in favor of the defendants, which were DOC. So I'm going to explain how the court came to that conclusion and talk about what our next steps are. We had a bunch of different claims, and feel free to jump in, Brian, if you want to clarify. The first was basically a declaratory judgment action, and it said for that time frame that we had a jail contract, January 2015 through January 2018, you owed us $88 a day. And in the 2015 legislature, the legislature put a cap in that said you can only pay jails $69 a day. So DOC, starting July 1, 2015, said, oh, sorry, we know we have a contract, but we're only going to pay you $69 a day. So then the contract expired in January of 2018, but they have continued to set the $69 cap in every legislative session to date. So we said for that contract period, 15 to 18, that cap violated the contract clause of the state and federal constitution, which says the legislature can't just unilaterally change state agencies' contract terms. And for post-contract period, you never changed the statute that said you have to pay us reasonable costs. So when you look at the caps and you look at reasonable costs, you have to interpret the cap to say reasonable costs only if that isn't what you actually owe as a reasonable cost. So the court said, you're right, Missoula County. During that jail contract period, it did violate the contracts clause for the legislature to put that cap in. But you didn't bring your breach of contract claim in time.
From 2015 to 2019,
Yes,
we didn't,
2018.
or 18.
So here's their reasoning. There are basically, you guys know what a statute of limitations is. It's the time by which you have to bring a claim. There are 3 potential statutes of limitations that apply to our breach of contract claim. First one, which is the one that we think applied, is under just a general breach of contract. This was a Title VII interlocal agreement between a local government and a state agency. It talks about Title VII. There's a part of Title VII that sets forth an interlocal agreement, explains what they are. There's no doubt that this is a Title VII interlocal agreement, and therefore Title VII should apply to it, or general breach of contract rules. There's also Title 18, and Title 18 is what applies to state agencies that are procuring goods by vendors. So as you know, we have to go through procurement if we're getting goods or services above a certain amount. So does the state. Title 18 says the state has to solicit bids, has to consider this, has to consider that. And it also says, and by the way, if you enter into one of these procurement contracts and you think the state has breached it, you have to bring a claim in 1 year. 1 year statute of limitations for vendor contracts. We don't think that that applied to this contract, which is completely different. The state didn't go through procurement to enter into the jail contract. And then there's the other catch-all that the Title 27 says, if you have a claim and no other statute identifies the statute of limitations, it's 5 years. So basically we said it's a 7-year breach of contract statute of limitations. We didn't say, but honestly probably should have said, if it's not that, then it's the default 5-year. The court said, doesn't matter, you contracted with a state agency, Title 18's 1-year statute of limitations applies. Ouch. Yeah, so we kind of won on the concept and lost on the technicality. Yeah. I'm going to get to why winning on the concept is important for you guys as you think about mask over the next few years. So then we had a couple other claims. We believed that the DOC's participation in the legislative session in 2017 and 2019 breached the duty that they had to negotiate to contracting good faith with us, because they had the contract in place during the 17 legislature, but they still went to the legislature and said, it's okay to have this cap. I'm paraphrasing. And so they dismissed those claims and they said, no, there was no special relationship. You can't recover under these breach of good faith and fair dealing and unjust enrichment types of claims. So before we move on to the next step here, I just want to say with the mass contract, they are obligated to pay you your actual cost pursuant to an administrative rule formula. If in the 2023 legislature, there is a cap on mask, which there wasn't in the 2021, you pretty much just need to immediately sue the DOC. And using the logic and the holding in this case, as long as you do it in a year, unless the Supreme Court reverses that, you will have a very solid contracts claim. So I think you're on really good ground for making sure you get your actual costs under the mass contract, the duration of through June 2024, regardless of what the legislature does. Okay, so for this, you have an automatic right of appeal in Montana. So we would recommend that you do appeal some portions of this decision. In my opinion, I would appeal the statute of limitations decision. I think that we have a really good claim on appeal that Title 18 statute of limitations doesn't apply here. There are a couple other areas that you might want to appeal, but I think it's really should be left up to Brian as my co-counsel in drafting this appeal to sort of do a deep dive and make a decision what beyond the statute of limitation claims, if any, he wants to go ahead and put up. I've sat through many continuing legal educations with Supreme Court justices who have said, don't appeal the entire thing. Pick a couple issues, the ones you think are strongest, and only appeal those. And so I think Brian will do a great job in doing that analysis. And so that's what I would suggest that you guys do. The dollar amount that would be at issue in the appeal is only that dollar amount of damages during that January 2015 to January 2018 contract period, which is just about $550,000. I wouldn't probably appeal the post-contract part of it. I would probably just stick with that contract term for that $550,000 amount. That means that you'll have to do an appellate mediation. One of you guys will have to sit through, but you guys are getting to be real pros at mediation. So you can do rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to go sit through that one. We will ask the same mediator who mediated the mask contract for us if he's available. And hopefully he will be since he's familiar.
Oh, I
Get
thought
that
he had
Jimmy
retired.
John's order in.
He's getting, I think he's, that's why I'm not sure. We're gonna ask him and hope that he hasn't completed. It was.
Dennis Lynn.
And he knows it. He's
Okay.
been through it.
Yeah.
He's really efficient.
Any questions or public comment?
Do we know what the new rate will be?
Well, it's interesting. It's called retro pay. So basically what happens is whatever the rate they're currently paying for 2022 is, or for 2021, at the end of fiscal year, I always get fiscal years confused. We're finishing 2022, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at the end of this one,
Today.
Andrew and his buddies in finance will do a detailed FY 2022 actual costs analysis, and they will provide that to DOC, and then DOC will retro pay us that amount on top of what they've been paying.
The actual costs,
The actual.
the $122 or whatever it is.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. They'll retro pay that, and then at the end of next fiscal year, we'll do the same thing, and then they'll retro pay whatever the difference between the monthly rate they're paying based on the previous fiscal year is and the new amount.
Who's the district court judge?
It was a Lewis and Clark judge, Mike Menahan.
Well, sounds reasonable to appeal this, so.
So what does our motion have to be like?
I think you would just be authorizing Brian to proceed.
How do you feel about it?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to appeal. And I think I'd appreciate having the authority to appeal all the claims if need be, but the understanding we'll probably select the ones that have the most
Okay.
benefit for the county.
As you were told in continuing legal. Clean.
Yes.
Oh, way to slip in the new acronym.
Learned an
Okay.
acronym the other day.
Okay, but just so you know, I don't call them CLEs, I
Okay.
call them CLEs. It's like a Montana thing to call them CLEs, it's always bothered me. So there is another option, you can either call it a CLE or a CLE.
Okay.
Yes.
Called it clean.
Crick and creek.
It's like
Yeah.
crick, it's like crick and creek, right?
So is there anywhere in Montana where it should be a CLE?
My house.
At your house? But if you're-
Now at the University of Montana Law.
Yeah.
If you're north of Reno Park.
Okay.
I would move that we authorize the county attorney's office to appeal.
Make sure there's no public.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any public comment on this? No, I don't see any press on either.
This is Cheryl's.
Or, yeah, Cheryl, do you have anything?
I don't. I certainly support their decision to appeal.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. All right, I'll second that. Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Any and all claims.
Any and all claims, thanks. You see fit.
Wow, we're making it through here.
We have one discussion item.
Discussion,
Okay,
I missed just a
discussion.
quick small thing. Oh, yes, this is a good one.
The Anna show continues.
Swan song.
My sad swan song continues. So, as you know, at the Smurfit site, there are 15 taxable parcels based on a settlement between the county and Wakefield Kennedy, now MLH Holding, which is principal is Steve Malsom. We settled the tax debt out there that was pretty significant. As part of that settlement, there was a foreclosure that occurred, and now MLH owns 15 out of the 18 taxable parcels out there.
Wow.
They agreed to initiate foreclosure on 2 that they did initiate foreclosure on, but didn't end up ultimately taking ownership of, unlike all of the other parcels. One parcel, 865-200, had the second highest tax debt at the time out there, now has the highest tax debt. They were not obligated to take ownership of that tax parcel as part of the settlement, and they still have not, so it remains owned by M2 Green. These 3 tax parcels that are still owned by M2 Green have remained delinquent in taxes, 865-200, for over, I think, about 10 years. And so we decided to use whatever tools we had available to try to use the law that was passed in, I think, the 2017 legislature that allowed local governments to bring civil actions for tax delinquencies against owners of property in the county that were delinquent for 3 years or more, and that there had been no assignment taken. So 865-200 does still meet that bill, and since it hasn't been dealt with, there's been no transfer of ownership, there's been no payment, we decided to go ahead and seek the recovery that we could get. Unfortunately, we weren't able to engage the de facto owner out there, and so we ended up getting a default judgment against M2 Green for $460,000. So you can take that and make your grocery list on the back. Yeah, unfortunately, this
We're not going to see the
entity doesn't have
$462,000.
assets that we're able to recover. So we did what we could to recover something for the community out there, but all we got, we needed, all I got was this default judgment.
Yeah.
Does some other entity own M2 Green?
You know, I don't know the corporate structure of M2 Green. I know that Ray Stillwell has been associated with it over the years, but that's all I know about it.
Was he or any other specific individual a part of the proceedings here?
Yeah, we ended up, if you're a corporation in Montana, you have to have a registered agent in Montana. And there's certain companies that just, that's what they do. They just act as a registered agent for out-of-state entities. And so we just had their registered agent up in Kalispell personally served.
So then what happens when it transfers? Well, eventually they sell this. Then what happens?
Default that does not run with the.
It does, so we don't have,
But obviously you can't take ownership of property without.
Unless you pay taxes. So there's a chance we could get this money someday.
Yes, you will get this money someday.
So describe for us, or refresh my memory, what this parcel is. Is this the most contaminated? It is not.
Out of those 3 parcels that M2 Green still owns, the other 2, besides 865-200, are what I believe to be contaminated. And that's ultimately my guess as to why they decided not to take ownership of those. 865-200 is north of the industrial core. It's lovely. It's not on the river, but it's a nice, big, huge taxable parcel.
it's safe and uncontaminated.
But it comes with this $462,000 add-on to the price tag.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised no one's taken an assignment on it yet. I mean, out of all the parcels you could take assignments on there, this wouldn't be about them.
How big is it?
I don't know. There's a map I could show you on the property information system, but I don't know.
Are any of these parcels individually developable without the remediation kind of having run its course on the entire site?
That's a great question.
There's a deed restriction that was filed on the entire group of parcels out there, including this one, that I believe is still in place. They run with the land, and they prohibit the development of residential property out there until there's a clean bill of health from the EPA. And so I believe that this parcel is probably subject to that, but.
That's a real bummer. So no, even on ground that is clean, housing can't be constructed until the entire thing is clean.
I think there may be some other avenues that developers and owners can work on the EPA with. I think because the contamination is different on the whole site, and there's certain areas that are clearly less contaminated than others. I mean, those two lower parcels that wouldn't.
But that deed restriction,
I think it does apply to the whole property, all of it.
so if the deed restriction applies to all of it and the deed restrictions say you can't build anywhere, even if that specific spot's clean until the entire thing is clean, then no specific spot gets built on.
I wouldn't say it quite like that. I think it is parcel by parcel. I think potentially, but it applies to all the parcels.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
so potentially the deed restriction could be lifted for a parcel where the EPA gave that parcel
Got
a
it.
clean bill of
Okay.
health. Weirdly, you can develop industrial out there. I think it just prohibits residential and commercial, but wouldn't think that that would be the best use of a lot of that land. out there.
No, I agree.
So sorry, I don't have better news for you on that or either of
But
those.
someday somebody will take it for the 462 and
Well, yeah, because you're guaranteed 10%, I think, when the owners ultimately.
what do you mean? I don't
Redeem.
understand. I don't know.
I think when you get a tax assignment, when the owner redeems it, like, let's say somebody took an assignment on my house because I didn't pay my taxes.
Yeah.
If I wanted to basically get my full ownership back.
Right.
I'd have to pay them the amount that they paid plus 10%.
Okay.
So it's a sort of a speculation approach that you can just take an assignment on
You're
land.
banking that somebody else is going to come up
You're
with the
definitely
10%.
gonna get a 10% return.
Plus any costs that they incur for advertising.
865-200.
So that's the one right there.
Would, gotta go look. I wonder why the screen is all smudged in there. Is it this one?
It's the one with the Joe, it's the one with the dotted outline.
Dotted outline.
So this,
Yeah.
this,
a lot of
that's,
water.
that's the eight, sorry, that's this one. Oh, I thought you said that it was relatively not contaminated and,
Well, the contamination stuff is concentrated to
here.
the southeast
Yeah,
there.
where the industrial
down in-
parcels are.
It's just all
So-
the water. Those aren't ponds. That's just natural water.
Don't know about that. But
Well,
the dumps are down farther down there.
dumpland.
Yeah, those 90-degree angles.
Well, maybe even farther down than that.
Oh, really? I thought that the, okay, so this,
Yeah, that's the parcel.
and then, sorry, Anna, you said that there's three?
Yeah, the other ones, if you want to put it in, Chris, to see the other ones are 949007.
Oh, that implies that I know how to do the parcel system. That's, no. There you go. So that's that one is 948,909.
949007. Oh, yeah, and the other one is 948909.
Oh, okay, so this one
Which is the primary.
is not going anywhere.
And I think it's the one directly.
That
probably.
One,
Oh,
Nine
so you said that's the
777.
other?
949007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one's directly to the.
okay,
So
so
it's
these two are like never,
basically
nothing's
these
gonna
guys.
ever happen with them.
Yeah.
The only one that has any potential is this one.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say those three continue to be owned by M2 Green. And my limited understanding of the site is that 865-200 has less potential contamination than the other two.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. You're so welcome.
Yeah.
Swan songs are supposed to be really beautiful.
I know.
This is the last thing you do.
Well, thanks, Anna, for all your work with Missoula County.
We have our gift.
Oh, well, okay.
Sort of.
There's
I
the
figured
piece-
it out.
Do you want to
Yeah,
record?
yeah. I'll go grab it. I wasn't sure if that was a
Do we
copy.
need
or-
to adjourn?
Can we adjourn? Unless everyone wants to hang out?
Yeah, I think you can adjourn because you're done with
Okay.
business.
Have a great
That's it.
day, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.